Get this party started, boys. Can you smell what Barry is cooking? Dun, 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 dun. AB says, know your role and shut your freaking mouth. Let Andrew Barry freaking cook. Listen. We all know I've been part of the Andrew Barry and Barry We Trust bandwagon for quite some time, right? I'm the president of that. I got t-shirts made, I got hoodies made, I got the whole nine. And I knew it. He had us in that first half, right? He had some of y'all in that first half, a lot of y'all in that first half. Y'all were off the AB train, right? And then how about him going back and totally redeeming himself and putting on an absolute masterclass in back-to-back years. And we all went to the same direction, right? We all thought the same thing. What the hell was Andrew Barry and them boys doing when they was together? Paul Podesta and Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry. Like, what was we doing? Because how can it be this much different? It like at the snap of a finger. Like, for once, we stared the obvious in the face, and we didn't turn away from it. We knew we needed a tackle. We knew we needed receivers. We stared it in the face. And Andrew Barry did what a lot of people thought we wouldn't do, and that's be aggressive and that's be smart. Like, remember when I was like, why not go get Tyson and Carnell Tate? Well, how about Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston? I'm not mad with that either. I mean, I really think the draft started to once that Jeremiah Love went 3, that was kind of a shakeup. And then you seen Carnell Tate go right after that. It would have been real interesting to see if what Andrew Barry would have done had Carnell Tate been there at 6. Because it almost feels like had he been there on the board, we would have went Carnell Tate. That's what it felt like. And I didn't get to really tap into any of the Twitter world or any of the social media world while I was at the draft. So it was hard for me to gauge what people were feeling in terms of the draft compensation. But if there shouldn't be any gripes at the compensation that Andrew Barry got. You're telling me that you got to move down 3 spots. You secured a 74th number overall pick and 148, and you still got to take the top offensive lineman off the board. That is how, remember, Andrew Barry told us he wanted to maximize his assets. Safe to say, he maximized it pretty much to the best of his ability. And as much as you guys know that I didn't want to go offensive lineman first, this is why we just wait to see how things pan out, because it worked in our favor. This is why they get paid the big bucks and I am in front of a camera in my man cave, right? So it worked out in our favor for sure. And I think a lot of people need to give him credit, because not only were picks 1, 2, and 3 good, or 1 and 2 good, the fact that he was able to trade back up and take a safety that I would have had no problem getting at the end of the first round or with the first pick in the second round. I would have sat here and been just as happy if we took that safety. To get him at pick number 58, it makes me want to punch Bob right now. That's what it makes me want. And Bob's over here in the corner. Matter of fact, you need to get in the frame, right? Because like if I don't know what it feels like. Like I don't know what it feels like. I like you know how we get with our expectation, and when we see something that we like, we can get overly excited with some of this stuff, and we can try to put the cart before the horse. That's what we do as Browns fans. But that was a steal. That's when I was like, oh my God, we just hit a grand slam. Like it was already looking like the draft was going to be a home run, but that pick right there solidified it as a grand slam. Now I know the next, I already know, right? The biggest thing after that, you got your depth, you got some tight end help. Everyone wants to know what's going on with Tailon Green. Me too. Hey, I ain't gonna cat to you. I want to know what's going on with Tailon Green. But if I had any idea of what's going on, and just like Andrew Berry's a sucker for a good pick, good value. Todd Monken is a sucker for explosive players that can make things happen with their feet. And you're telling him you get to like the beauty about Tailon Green is that you don't have to force him at all this year. Like low key, he shouldn't even be a thought this year. Let Todd Monken and them boys develop behind the scenes. If one of these quarterbacks don't work out, you've got a whole year quarterback being developed and letting him basically learn everything that Lamar Jackson was learning and then some. The only thing that we should be seeing Tailon Green is preseason and some here and here wildcat popping, like using him as a gadget guy. That's what I'm getting at. I don't think he's going to threaten that position yet. Now, if Shedeur Sanders go crazy, there's no conversation for any other quarterback, in my opinion. But I don't think we're out of the woods with the quarterback conversation until the Arch Manning arc is over with. We have to get through Arch Manning before we can talk about any of this other quarterback stuff, because we all know how much Arch Manning and Jimmy Haslam are tied together. I hate to say it, but we just got to call a spade a spade. But it is going to be interesting to see what's going to go on with Dillon Gabriel now, because you just wasted a 3rd round pick on this guy. Like, I feel like the way that low key Andrew Berry knocked this draft out of the park so damn hard, I don't even think people are you're going to have a very small percentage of people bitch about he wasted a top 100 pick on Dillon Gabriel last year. And it's going to be like, yeah, okay, we already knew that you was coming. That has nothing to do with anything. It's going to be interesting to see if they want to go ahead and try to dish him off somewhere. Is this boy Kevin Stefanski going to come grab him? I seen the Atlanta drafted a quarterback as well. So that's definitely going to be something to keep our eye on. Now, you know they had some interviews, right? You know they had some interviews, so you know we got to watch it. You know I ain't watching nothing without y'all. That's our new thing. Whenever interviews come out, I won't even watch them. I won't listen to them. We going to watch them together because I need that raw, authentic emotion. And I don't want to come in here with any other expectation other than I already know Todd Monk about to talk his talk. And I know AB about to talk his talk. And I know it's about to feel like we about to win the whole, you know what I'm saying? First, we got to win the division. But 6.5 games, hey, listen. I want y'all to get the word out. Let them know we up. You know what I'm saying? Joel, appreciate the heart me, Patrick. Appreciate the roses, Patrick, and the heart me, and Miss Daylight. Appreciate the heart me as well. Drop a like up on the stream. And type of 1 in chat if you're excited. 2, if you're not gonna put it. 2, if you're waiting to be excited. Because I can understand if some people want to wait to be excited. But 1's if you're feeling like me. 2, if you just gonna wait a little bit. And I understand. I can understand some 2's. But I'm jacked right now. In the words of Todd Monken, I'm absolutely jacked. But this is Todd Monken, I believe, after the 1st round of the draft. Let me make sure. Hold on. Let me pull up. Almost started that without y'all. Here we go. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Here we go. That's not it. There it is.
What was it that you really saw in Spencer that stood out that made him kind of the guy you guys wanted there? Character, athleticism, toughness.
Short and sweet.
Todd, where does he play on the line?
Left tackle.
Yeah, are you concerned?
Now, I know we usually go through this, but though that is one thing that just gives me a little bit PTSD. But I seen some clips that said the footwork that he had that he displayed in the tape room when they was talking to him. They said it was different. But every clip, I was looking at the clips of this dude, and I'm like, wait a minute. Andrew Berry talking about left tackle. Every clip is of him on the right side. So we're doing this again? Like, and then I was like, okay, well, maybe they move DeJuan Jones over to the right side, and then they go ahead and draft more linemen. Like, if I'm DeJuan Jones, man, like, I'm praying that, number one, I stay healthy, but I am coming out guns a-blazing because it feels like DeJuan Jones is just, like, it's almost feeling like he's on his way. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to say he ain't got a shot, but damn, the pressure, you got to feel the pressure if you're DeJuan Jones right now.
That he hasn't played that in a couple of years at all?
No.
Why not?
Ended up where as he moved over to right tackle, they played Caleb over on that side. So now he's going to play left tackle for us.
Let's do away with Mike. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah.
So what's it like your first draft as a head coach? What's his experience?
Well, we were jacked. I mean, to be able to move back 3 spots, pick up a third and a fifth. What a great job by Andrew, and get the player we targeted the whole time. And I mean, we couldn't be any more excited, and still have another pick later on tonight.
Jordan Tyson was still on the board, and you guys made the trade down. So obviously then Spencer must have been your guys' number one.
No, we targeted Spencer.
With Spencer being the first tackle off the board, what was it about him that you thought separated him from the rest of this?
You know, I do want to say something on that. Them addressing offensive line like that, you know what that tells me? It feels like it tells me that they have full confidence in the quarterback room that they have. They need to go protect the quarterbacks that they have. Right? Everyone, I know we like to want to get the weapons and get flashy, but if they targeted the offensive lineman the whole time, like, that's why I said it would have been interesting to see if they went Carnell Tate. But nah, we got to go protect 12 or 2 or 4 or whoever. You know what I'm saying? Like, they identified their coach. The coach identified the quarterback room, is like, yeah, we can go, and now let's go protect our men.
As I said, his character was first. I mean, the way he's wired, I think the expectations that we'll have for him won't even match that he has for himself. And his athleticism, his toughness. I mean, when you want to start off the first year of your regime, I mean, when you talk about what you want, character, toughness, athleticism, he has it all.
There was a lot of speculation throughout the draft process that Spencer might move in inside to guard or center just because of the arm length. Well, what did you see on film that alleviates the concerns about arm length at that tackle position?
Well, I think his athleticism and his toughness. I just think all of the above. I mean, I think that's a part of it. Reach, of course that is. An arm length, of course it is. But there's other things that are involved with it, other characteristics that go into that. I think he'd be an elite guard as well. I think he'd be elite center. I don't care where you put him. I think he's going to be an elite player.
You know what George?
They're building an athletic team. And I'm not just talking about, like, they're building a finesse team. They're building a team that we're going to watch on Sundays and be like, oh my gosh, this is fun. That's what they're building. Athletic linemen. They're going to be pulling. There's going to be linemen 10, 15, 20 yards down line, just bulldozing people. Like, the pancakes are going to be back in Cleveland. They're building athleticism.
Warhawk wants in his lineman. Does Spencer Fano fit it better than the others?
I won't speak to where we had the other guys at. I'll just say that we were excited as heck to be able to get Spencer.
Andrew said a tackle's a tackle, but the fact that Spencer played left early on at Utah, is that important for you guys to see?
It's part of the equation, yes.
Utah teams, I mean, their physicality is sort of always been sort of their calling card. I mean, how much does that, that program DNA, do you see in Spencer, and how much was that an attractive, part of that?
A big piece of it. You go all the way back to Urban Meyer and then Coach Whittingham. I mean, when you get a player from Utah, I mean, you get a player that's physical. They're going to practice physical. They're going to play physical. Their style,
My
their
screen is-
expectations.
Yeah, I was wondering if it's just my camera too, isn't it? That's blurry. I was wondering if I was tripping, chat. Hold on, my fault. I'm trying to figure out why exactly is my screen blurry like that. That's never happened before. Give me 1 second. Like, what the heck going on? That we can't be having this, chat. I don't even know what to do. Like, I don't even know why it's doing that. I don't know what's going on. They don't want me to be great. Let's see if we turn it down a little bit. Let's see if that helps. Monkin's clear. Let's see if 720 work. No, that's still. I don't know what to do, chat. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I change this camera up real quick. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Hold on. I'll sacrifice for the greater good. Hold on. Let me try to work some finesse real quick. That is crazy. Has it been like that the whole time? Let's see if that's better. Switch the cameras out. See if that works. No, it's got it. So it ain't that. It's the. It's the It's the connection. It's like the Wi-Fi tripping. Yeah, we just gonna have to run through it, man. Matter of fact, let's take this off. Let's see if that helps. All right, let me switch my camera back too. Let me get y'all back crispy if it ever decide to go crispy. Okay. My fault, y'all. Having technical difficulties per usual. I mean, if to be honest, it really ain't a Chef's A stream unless we got technical difficulties. We keeping it a buck.
Of their old linemen. So again, we're fired up.
Would you still like to get a receiver pretty high in this draft if you can?
Sure. And we'd like to add, there's a number of areas we'd like to add to our team, that being one of them.
That all surprised with how the
Ryan, appreciate the gold medal, baby.
previous to your guys' pick.
I wouldn't say that. I think it fell pretty close within reason. As far as I could tell, being in there with Andrew and his group, it fell off the board the way it appeared to me that it was going to go.
Did you have Spencer in for a 30 visit? Because I know that was.
We did.
Okay.
We did.
What stood out during that visit?
To everything that I've already said. I mean, it's pretty easy that,
You have Spencer Fano as your left tackle. Does it affect the movement of any other positions on your line that we saw the other day?
Not what we saw the other day was really who we had, with Elton being out, Titus being a little bit limited and trying to put all the pieces together. Ultimately, once the draft is over and free agency and we go to camp, then we'll work on exactly where everybody's going to fit that was here the other day.
You came in and talked a lot of just about how it all kind of starts in the offensive line. You mentioned that, I know, at the combine. With what the resources you guys spent in free agency to sort of bolster that group, now your first pick is a tackle. Was this kind of, when you came in and took this job, what you envisioned as you thought about kind of rebuilding this offense, that it would start with figuring out that group?
100%.
All right, that was after they drafted Fano. Let's go after the end of the night. Because that's when it's just started to get fun. Oh, wait, AB next. Okay. We'll do player interviews a different day.
So, listen, we're very excited in terms of how night one concluded.
You damn
for us
right,
to get,
AB.
Two of kind of what I would call our shortlist players to pick up another top 100 pick, as well as another pick in the top 150. We were very pleased with just really all the activity this evening. We're really excited about Spencer, and his potential at left tackle. He's super athletic, very versatile, elite, makeup. And then KC, he's, he's dynamic. He's, an outstanding separator, really good with the ball in his hands. Honestly, probably the best punt returner in this class. And, those two guys will really help our offense moving forward. So with that, open up for questions.
Hey, he know he cooked. He know it too, man. Hey, it is. Hey, talk your talk, AB. They've been at your neck for years, man. And it's good to see you. It's good to see you flex because you know you cooked.
Class, and those two guys will really help our offense moving forward. So with that, open up for questions. It was. And, we were joking. It's like, okay, well, the board probably fell better than it did in our simulations in the week leading up to it, which is always nice. But we're really excited about the two players that we got. And we're really excited that, we were able to pick up the extra draft resources while, taking the player that we really coveted at 9.
Andrew, how many, did you get a lot of calls for 6 and Casey was the best one or how'd that kind of go when you were on the clock?
We did get several calls for 6. We thought through, I should say this, we got several calls for 6 and 9, the combination of 6 and 9. At 6, Kansas City made the most sense because it was a big enough move where we could pick up resources, but also small enough with what had happened on the board that we could get one of our short list of targets, of which Spencer was at the top, and then at 9 we did get a little bit of action there as well, but nothing that necessarily compelled us to move off at the pick.
I know you kind of believe the tackle is tackle, but in Spencer's case, does it help that you've seen him play on the left side?
Yeah, it certainly helps, but really you're looking more for traits in that regard, Dan, just because, if you think about it, we move guys from the left side to the right side all the time and it never gets talked about. And that distinction, it's just, you need 2 of them to pass protect. And one, you maybe help a little, the other, you help a little bit more. But Spencer, he's super athletic. He's played on both sides. He's really smart. We're excited to have him.
Hey, Andrew, Casey had some drops, and are you concerned about that?
Yeah, every receiver besides maybe Larry Fitzgerald has a couple drops. And,
True.
Casey, he's been a dynamic producer at NC State, Texas A&M. He's electric with the ball in his hands, and we're looking forward to having him.
Andrew, this offseason, even Spencer, the versatility that he has, was that really intentional for you this offseason with maybe what has happened with the offensive line the last couple of years? It just feels like versatility was like a top of your wish list for every player that you brought in that position with this offseason.
I'd say if you're on the O-line, you typically need to be able to play 2 spots. I'd say probably more so than versatility, it was resiliency within the O-line in terms of how you build that position group. Versatility is one way to do it. Strength in numbers is another way to do it. I think we'll be in a position where we have both. With Spencer in particular, look, we're looking to park him at left tackle and let him play. So while it's nice that he's played several spots, that's not our vision for him.
I know he played inside and out at A&M. Do you envision him being able to play both roles for you?
Yeah, we do.
Talked to him, read the letters.
Oh, yeah. Who did
being able to play at A&M. Do you
play? So
didn't
while
hear
it's
that.
nice that he's played several spots, that's not our vision for him.
I know he played inside and out at A&M. Do you envision him being able to play both roles for you?
Yeah, we do.
Talked to him, read the letters that he wrote. Just how impressive is it that he's been able to get where he has, given all he's grown up with, including the stutters?
Yeah, that's one thing that we talked about. I told him, when he was on his 30 visit, I think it's incredible what he's overcome and gone through in his life. When we got the, his agent sent the letter, I'm sure it'll, every GM, but I actually I called him after the letter. I was like, hey, look, I thought that was really awesome. And that was separate from, obviously liking him as a prospect, but, I'll share one story. When Casey visited, I was like, hey, I hope you're a Brown, but if you're not, I sure hope you're in the NFC because I don't want to face you. And then I told his agent afterwards, I was like, hey, everything that kid's about, everything that he's overcome. You know, if he's not here, he just needs to know he's got a fan. I really love the person. And he's obviously a dynamic football player.
Guys, like I just want you to I want to put like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it because I want you guys to embrace the feeling that we're feeling. When I tell you, when I was sitting in the stands around nothing but Steeler fans, and when you heard the name go off the board, and then you heard Boston go off the board, you heard fear, you felt the atmosphere, and it was just like, man, if this wasn't the Browns, we would be getting our respect on a whole nother level. They feel us coming, and it just felt like when I was sitting in that stadium, it's just like, I'm like, are we turning a new leaf? Like, it truly feels like we're doing what things that great teams are doing. And it's just, it's weird because we don't ever do that. We never do that. And last year was the first time it felt like we finally did something right. Like, the only other times that I can think of as an adult was when John Dorsey did the Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb moves, like those, and then he traded for all that. Like, it was like, oh my God, those are things that other GMs weren't doing. You go off the rail and you take the quarterback that no one thought you were going to take. You take Denzel Ward, who people said it was a reach. You go ahead and trade for Odell, who said it would have been this, and then you trade for like. Then you go through that mud period where it's just like, why aren't we utilizing Kareem Hunt? Why aren't we doing this? Why can't David Njoku be a top 5 tight end in the league? Why can't we find a way to maximize Baker Mayfield? And then all these questions for those years happen. And then all of a sudden last year, boom, like the league can feel it. If we don't fall on our face, we're going to make noise, because when I sat in that stadium, I kid you not, man, when you heard KC Concepcion and then followed by what the that was Steelers. That was all of Steelers and how they were feeling.
Is punt return ability just a bonus, or did it put him over the top among other receivers left?
I'd say it was a bonus, you know, more than anything, Tony, because it's certainly great if you can, you know, if you can get the ball in playmaker's hand in a variety of ways. It allows you to be more explosive as a team, allows you to score more points, but also being realistic that, you know, if you look at former, let's say, high pick receivers, whether it's, you know, Deshaun Jackson back in the day, Des Bryant early in his career, you know, usually at some point they probably like play their way off of that. So like it's not necessarily bankable for their entire career. But with Casey, it certainly was an added bonus.
And obviously you had Spencer Fano, number 1 amongst your targets. But did you give much thought to Jordan Tyson? And was it, you know, a little difficult at that moment to trade away from him at all, or did you know that you were targeting Spencer?
You know, we liked a number of those guys up there, including Jordan. You know, but Spencer was our really our top. Excuse me, Spencer was our top target at that point.
At that point, I think if Carnell Tate would have failed, we probably would have took him.
A lot was made about Spencer's arm length. I was curious, when you watch the film, how much of that was like a talking point, and maybe what are the traits that you think will allow that to not be an issue in the NFL?
Yeah, I know it gets talked about a lot, and I remember, you know, the legendary, you know, O-line coach Dante Scarnecchia with New England used to say it's way overrated. I think most times tackles get beat for a lack of feet or athleticism or anchor or awareness, you know, as opposed to length. The biggest thing is like, hey, how can the guys, you know, short the corner? And with elite athletes like Spencer, they do it with their movement skills. Maybe if you have a guy that just is not as quick or not as agile, then length is a little bit more important. But the difference in his success isn't going to be, you know, this in terms of arm length. He has a number of incredible both physical and mental characteristics that we think will lead to a successful transition.
How do you measure when you have like a dynamic athlete like KC, but guys drop balls? How do you kind of measure that?
Yeah, it's really relative to the population. Like I know that gets talked about, but he has natural dexterity. You know, it's nothing extreme or nothing out of I guess it's not an outlier, relative to other receivers in the draft class. I know that's been the primary talking point, but we're comfortable with KC's hands.
He drove to Cleveland from Indy. Was he, in fact, your first 30 visit?
Great question, Tony. I don't know if he was our first. He was among our first. But we had a couple of guys in right after the combine. He was one of them. I don't think he was the very first, but he was among our first. Yes.
Did you?
Let me go Mary Kay and then I'll go Zach.
Do you envision using all of the remaining draft picks that you have now that you picked up the extras yet?
Look, I would hope to draft in volume this year, but it really just depends on how the board falls.
Hey, you peep the lip lick. Yeah, I got Toledo on the mind. Yeah, we know what we about to do. We about to cut. Hey, he already, look at his head. He already knew what time it was. Hey, we seeing the butterfly. We seeing the butterfly AB, man. Hey, level up on them, AB, man. Level up on
Look,
them.
I would hope to draft in volume this year, but it really just depends on how the board falls. So I'm also like, depending on how good of a review you guys write us, I'm going to use that 7th rounder. If you guys write something, okay.
Did Todd and you to an extent see some Zay Flowers and how Todd used him in case?
I do think there are some similarities in terms of like the movement skills, the twitch, honestly, some of the questions regarding the hands coming out, Terry. I think the one thing that maybe gets a little bit lost is like KC is a much bigger player than Zay, but I think there is some overlap in the characteristics. I think, look, if we get a player who's comparable to Zay Flowers, when we're sitting here from 3 years, we'll be elated.
To go back to Spencer, I mean, early on, I guess how early on in this process have you guys really zeroed in on him as the top tackle in a pretty deep class?
We used the whole process, Ashley. We did feel like Spencer was, unique in terms of, everything that comprised his on-field performance, his physical skills, and his makeup. But we do like to use the whole shot clock.
In terms of the trade with KC, was that an option to get a 2027 pick?
No.
An extra 3rd round pick?
There was no option or discussion of future picks.
I know only being 2 picks that you didn't know. But what's that nervous level like saying, okay, you want Spencer, but there's a chance? I mean, were you worried at all that 7 and 8 could take him?
That's part of the risk, Scott. When we were on the clock at 6, what I told the room is, hey, there are really kind of 3 guys left that, we'd be elated with, if we had to sit and pick. Moving back 3 spots and having an idea of where Kansas City was going, we knew we were going to get one of those 3 guys. We also felt the teams behind us, Washington, they extended Tunsil. They drafted Josh Connerly in the 1st round last year. New Orleans, they drafted Kelvin Banks, at 9 last year, and then Fuaga the year before that. So we felt pretty comfortable that a tackle wasn't going to go unless a team traded into it. But if one did, we felt good with the group of players that were in front of us.
Is Todd able to contain his excitement upstairs, or are you now his new best friend with getting him?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who you mentioned.
Todd's reaction upstairs, 1st round. Was he able to contain his excitement?
He was pretty pumped up. So we all were. Because
that's interesting. I wonder who those 3 players are. Because at 6, they go LSU, right? Then Sonny Styles goes next, right? Then Jordan Tyson goes, and then Spencer Fano goes. I wonder if it was those 3, Sonny Styles, Tyson, Fano, if it went in that order. Because you can't go Caleb Downs. You would have took Caleb Downs there. They had offense, my number 1 priority this year. Can't say they didn't, but I wonder who those 3 guys are.
Look, you don't always have the board, fall away that you predict. And look, the idea is like, these guys, they haven't hit the grass. They still have to perform at our level, but it's a start that we are excited about because of the players and the people.
Spencer mentioned Joe Thomas and just how much he looks up to him and everything. How much are you guys going to try to do you try to facilitate getting those two together? I know Joe's got his own schedule and everything, but how much do you try to get those two together?
Yeah, Joe's obviously one of our distinguished alumnus, and he's always involved in our O linemen. Also, there's a connection with Joe and Spencer's representation. But we love. I think you all know we love having Joe around here and everything like that. I'm sure he will have words of wisdom for Spencer, and that's definitely a connection we will look to make.
Drew,
Let me go here first, Jeff, and then I'll come back to you.
you obviously talked so much leading up to the draft just about not being, crippled by needs versus best player available, sort of that strategy. When push came to shove, especially when you were on the clock at 6, like what were those conversations like in sort of deciding what was there and what your needs were? Because as it turned out, you obviously did end up addressing some of your big needs today.
There really wasn't a ton of conversation. All those conversations happened beforehand. Like at this point, it's like I would almost make it the equivalent of like calling plays. You talk through all those different scenarios ahead of time. And this one was straightforward because, we viewed Spencer as one of the top prospects in the draft. So it made it pretty easy. There was, we didn't really feel like there was any type of trade-off in that regard.
All right, AB, you stamped him. You stamped Spencer Fano as a guy. Now you this soundbite will be played for years if he don't pan out, and it will be tied to your legacy along with Deshaun Watson, with Baker, with all of that. As okay, the first guy, your first draft solo. Like last year, DePodesta was in the building in that beginning part, but it's clear that he didn't have his hand in it. But this is your first time evaluating talent, and you said what? What'd you say again? I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Make it the equivalent of like calling plays. You talk through all those different scenarios ahead of time. And this one was straightforward because we viewed Spencer as one of the top prospects in the draft. So it made it pretty easy.
You viewed him as one of the top prospects in the draft. All right, that you put your evaluating skills on notice. You better not F it up, AB. All right, I got faith in you, but you better not F it up.
There was, we didn't really feel like there was any type of trade-off in that regard. Go ahead, Jeff.
Can you just reflect, Andrew, on how you've rebuilt the offensive line here in these last 2 months?
Yeah, I think we are very excited about the players that we've brought in, as well as the development that's occurring with, existing players. Obviously the vets that we acquired, whether it's via trade or free agency or, with the cap cut, we felt like we've brought quality production, as well as experience to that group. And then obviously with night one adding Spencer, we think that's a big, foundational piece to that position group. We'll see where we go from here. Look, we still have 9 more picks. We may not be done, with the O-line at that point. And like I said, we're excited about some of our younger guys that are going to get greater opportunities, but it's a good start.
You talked about the traits with Spencer, but I know to be a great O-line, there's some personality aspects, right? Some nasty that the guy has to have. Can you sort of speak to that side of Spencer and what you guys learned about him?
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about Spencer is you look at how I guess scheme transcendent he's been, because what they did in 24 versus 25 was a lot different in terms of how they structured the run game, how they did, pass pro. And you can see him move, you can see him maul. I think he's very gifted and very versatile in that regard. And, don't be fooled by his kindness when you meet him. Have you guys done your Zoom with him already? Yeah, don't be fooled by his kindness. He's nasty on the field.
AB, man, you crack me up, brother. You crack me up. All right, let's go to day 2. Let's go to day 2. AB. Is this after everything? Let me see.
We're excited about today. Not just with the
Wait, this is before? Did we want to listen to him before? Right?
Players that we added, the 3 guys that we added, but Also how we were able to add to our resource base in 27, and then how we're positioned for tomorrow afternoon, with several other day 3 picks. So obviously a lot of action, a lot of movement, throughout the evening tonight, but we're pleased with where we ended up. And so with that, I'll open up with questions.
I'm sure you didn't come in tonight and you'd make this many trades, but when
Oh, this
you
is
get a
after?
sense
Okay.
that it'd be just that kind of night for you.
It's usually just based on the action that you get or how the board falls. I'll be honest, Dan, like we try to stay pretty nimble and flexible just because you never know, when the next opportunity is going to come up. And I think that's actually one of the benefits of having volume and quality with your picks, because there are more opportunities to maneuver up and down the board.
And were you surprised with some of the guys that fell in your lap, like Denzel Boston and McNeil-Warren to begin with, their first round projections?
I was probably most surprised with E-Man. We figured that Denzel could go anywhere from late 1 to early 2, just to be truthful. But E-Man, he wasn't someone that we anticipated being there as late as he was. So when he got within striking distance, we felt the move was appropriate. To be truthful, he was in play for us at 39.
Love it, because I would have been fine with him there at 39, but the fact that you were able to finesse that, see, this is why you listen to what these people say, because they've been giving us the breadcrumbs forever. They told us how aggressive they was going to be on the offensive side of the ball. If he wasn't going to be as aggressive as the side of the ball, I'm just saying. I listen. Hey. We about to cook this year. We gonna cook it. We putting up points this year too, so I can't wait to see what the defense gonna do. Because if we average 25 points a game, good luck. Good luck.
Look at what you did with your wide receiver room. Can you sort of talk about what you have globally from your pass catching core right now, and how this might impact like a Jerry Jeudy or anybody like that?
Zero impact on Jerry. He's our bell cow. We feel like we have a nice. I think with receiver rooms, you can have, maybe a ball dominant player, or you can essentially build a basketball team, with different skill sets. We prefer the second approach. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll take Calvin Johnson if he's out there, but we feel like we have a nice, well-rounded room with speed, rack, contested catchability, separation. So we're really pleased with, the youth and talent in that group.
On that trade for Emmanuel, do you get a sense that another team is going to take on? When do you know when to pull the trigger on us?
So they're probably two separate situations, Jeff. One is when you do have maybe an inkling that you're going into a stretch where a player or a group of players will be target for several teams, and you're trying to get ahead of it. Another may just be, and I would put like the Emmanuel trade and then what we did for JOK in 2021 in this bucket, where you have a player that you just didn't expect to be in a certain range of the draft. And there's a certain level of like, okay, you don't necessarily have a team identified that's going to take that player off the board, but you look at your resources and say, hey, this is a price that I'm willing to pay for this skill set for this guy, relative to what you think you're getting. I'll go here and then I'll go Ashley. Yep.
You talked last week before the draft just about like positionless defense. Where does a player like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren sort of fit into that idea as you think about it, what you got in him as a player?
Yeah, Emmanuel is incredibly versatile, and we're realistic that you're not going to put everything on his plate his rookie year. But I think you really started seeing this with the safety positions, certainly with what Baltimore did with Kyle Hamilton a couple of years ago. You look across the league and you see just the increase of 3 safety packages. You look at what Nick Emmanwori did for Seattle this past year, and it just gives you a lot of flexibility where you have safeties that can play deep. They can play in the box. They can live in the linebacker world. They can live in the nickel world, and they just give a lot of flexibility for a creative coordinator.
If I'm Grant Delpit, I'm like, I know there's going to be conversations, like just like I had the feeling when that Greg Newsome conversation. Like I was on Greg Newsome, he was always in that trade rumor talk. It was only a matter of time before they pulled the trigger on that. And it's probably going to happen with Grant Delpit as well, just because of contract stuff. But if I'm Grant Delpit right now, and I just knew you got me another guy to go on the other side of me. Oh my God. Grant Delpit is going to be a missile this year. It's going to be so fun watching him fly. Our defense is about to be so freaking fast, speedy, attack to the ball. Like it's going to be ball, attack, ball. Like, oh my. Grant Delpit should be head hunting this year. That's like you get him that type of how it's up for Grant Delpit. I know he got to be excited to have somebody like that next to him.
Remember last year after you guys drafted Carson, you talked about the importance of taking an off-ball linebacker that high because you hadn't made a major investment there since like 4 years prior. Was there any similar thinking with Emmanuel? Like you hadn't taken a safety that high since Grant like 6 years ago?
No, it really wasn't because, Grant and Ronnie, we obviously like those guys a lot. Grant, we took him my first draft. We extended him. Rocket, he's outperformed how we acquired him, signing him as an undrafted free agent. Emmanuel, we just viewed it as a fantastic opportunity and someone who could, not only just from a pure talent standpoint, improve the room, but could also complement our existing core there.
Andrew, you spoke back in January about dedicating a lot of resources to remaking this offense.
Mm-hmm.
With 1 day still left in the draft, how do you feel about the process you've done in terms of that remodeling?
I think we're excited about the players that we've added. We're certainly excited to see them on the grass because we haven't seen them as a collective unit. But we still have work to do on both sides of the ball, and tomorrow will be a big day for that. But so will really made to the cut down period because there are still some important roles that we'd like to add competition to.
I don't want to put too much on Emmanuel's plate.
So he told us for real. He low-key foreshadowed that. See, this is before the room. So after let's people. This is after round 3. So or round 2. Round 3, they go offensive tackle, which that's not where I think he was hinting at. Then round 4, they don't have a pick, right? Then in round 5, they go depth, linebacker room, tight end. And then at pick 6, first pick in the 6th round, they go the room, like they want to add competition into a room. Tailon Green is to make sure that this quarterback room is giving it all they got. Because if Tailon Green develop or show any type of flashes, he is the mold that Todd Monken was taught. Matter of fact, look, there got to be the clip. Let me pull up the clip. Todd Monken on QBs, right? Like, hopefully this pulls up the clip fast, because the clip that I'm talking about is when he was in the Ravens uniform and the Ravens meaning he talked about how impactful it is to have a mobile quarterback. And I don't think it's gonna come up because why would it come up when I need it to come up? But Tailon Green is here to make sure that 4 and 2 is giving it they all, because we already know how Ty like to develop these type of quarterbacks, and I know once you see 6'6", 4'3" speed go out there one time, it's gonna be hard not to see it again. I tell you, if preseason gonna be fun.
Do you see him initially as kind of a ball hawk free safety?
Thank you. As a 2 fan, you gotta understand 6'6", 4'3". Like you, at that point, it's just like, oh yeah, we what we doing? We got to like that's freakish nature.
I think that remains to be seen.
And oh, by the way, longest broad jump and high jumper in NFL combine history.
Tony,
freak athlete.
And honestly, like that determination will be by Monk, Rudy, Ephraim. It's probably hard for me to answer that till he's like in our building, until we get him up and running. But we'll crawl, walk, run.
I know you have to stay flexible during the draft, but did you anticipate a scenario where you might take 2 receivers, either back-to-back or whatever, early on in this draft? And does it feel like a departure because you really hadn't done that in your previous drafts, taking a receiver high?
Scott, we did we did have scenarios where, because of the strength of the receiver class and the depth of it, that we thought we could take, 2 receivers relatively high. Definitely doesn't feel like a departure. It's maybe a little bit, what I mentioned to Fred earlier, where I think if you look at the past couple years, we had Jarvis and Odell. We traded for Amari, who was a Pro Bowl receiver for us, and then, had him on a big money extension. We then traded for Jerry, who was a Pro Bowl receiver for us. And then, like, I was actually even thinking, and this one didn't maybe work out quite as cleanly, but even the years where we were short first round picks, one of those trades was for Elijah Moore, and then, trading down from 2 for Elijah Moore, and then taking Sed in 3. So there's no philosophical thing there. It's obviously easier to maybe dictate the room a little bit more when you have your full slate of resources.
Todd, about how the quarterbacks looked on the last 2 days of minicamp, because we didn't get to see any of that. So just wondering, how comfortable are you with the quarterback room right now? And what are you still thinking that it's wholly realistic to possibly add somebody to the room on the 3rd day of the
You ain't
draft?
wrong,
We'll
James.
always
You ain't
add
wrong.
talent at the most important position. That's
You are not wrong.
That's, I guess, full stop. Doesn't matter who's in the room. If there's a quarterback that we'll like, that's available to us at the right cost, we'll add that player. That being said, the 3 guys have done a really nice job so far this spring. We're lucky that we got 3 days on the grass. They all are learning the offense quickly, working through their mistakes, throwing the ball well. But that wouldn't prevent us from adding a player that we like tomorrow.
You were gaming all this stuff out. Was there a scenario where you had your first 4 picks, all this Cleveland Browns? I mean, it seems like 4 players that a lot of people have first round grades on.
The Andrew Berry special.
Okay, you felt like you got one there, but it feels like you got 2 of them here.
Yeah, I think, as we work through scenarios, as we work through simulations, we did have simulations where the receivers kind of lined up the way that they did, just because of the strength of this class. I'll be honest, I did not anticipate a world where Emmanuel went as late as he did.
First step out of the 3rd round.
That's how you know you got a GM who willing to make it do what it do. It had no intention, but hold up. Let me play it cool real quick. Let me finesse some things, and let me go up and get a guy that got why he's still on the board. Go work it, AB. Cook. That's like, damn, I ain't got no lemon. That's all right. We gonna use something else. Oh, wait, damn, I ain't got no seasoning. All right, we gonna have to get some garlic powder. Where the garlic powder at? Let me sprinkle some on it. AP looking at the seasoning is like, how we gonna get this steak well done? How we gonna get McNeil right now real quick? That's what he do it.
No, so I actually call those yo-yo trades. So, like, sometimes you get a situation. Actually, probably the first time I started calling this that when we moved back in, it was actually Sashi. I think we moved back in 17, picked up a future 1. And I think we moved back up for David at the end of 1. Oftentimes those trades become, like, if you look at the aggregate set of moves, they become pretty efficient because you pick up either a high level or future asset, but you're able to still get a targeted player without giving all those realized gains back. Very rare situations will we do that, but we felt like this was one where it made the most sense.
Special affinity for the 5th round, and
the 5th round is the new 7th, Mary Kay. Yeah, so.
what's the thinking going into tomorrow with 5th round?
Honestly, in day 3 of the draft, because teams' boards, they just spread out. There's very little overlap. Truth be told, you could largely go into the 3rd day of the draft with maybe call like 8 to 10 names, and you're probably going to get most of them. So it'll literally be, hey, how can we be as opportunistic as possible? Because you're just not going to be able to predict the order of, the players that go off. I was joking with Todd upstairs. I was like, man, I got to apologize. I misread the market because, we thought we were going to be able to maybe add one of the class's strongest, blocking tight ends, with one of those 5th round picks. And, pretty much all of them went off the board by the end of the 3rd round. So I was like, I screwed that one up. I messed that up. So we'll just take the best opportunity that we can with the players that are available. I don't know who mentioned it earlier. If there comes a situation where there's a veteran trade that makes sense, we would explore that as we always do. But our big thing is, how do we best maximize the assets?
Stay true.
Do you see, Todd said you see him first as a tackle. So is that just about, I mean, obviously you traded for Titus and then drafted Spencer. So is it just that position so important that you want to get as much depth outside of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I also think, like, we talked about turning over that position group with both youth and talent. And Titus is great. He can play tackle, he can play guard, but also being realistic that he is a little bit more advanced in his career, relative to some of the other players. But you can never have enough of the tackles. You can never have enough of the line of scrimmage players, just because they're so hard to find and they're so hard to acquire once you get past this point that we want to roll deep in those position groups when we can.
Looking at the players that have gone first 100, only 3 running backs. Do you attribute it to class? Do you attribute it to?
Damn, only 3 running backs this year?
Kind of your scouting of that position group. Like, what would you attribute?
I think it's 2 things. I think it's class, and I also think it's just the fact that if you go back to last year's class, how deep it was. I think a lot of teams took their young running backs. I mean, look, we took 2, and so I think that plays into it as well.
Theory why Emmanuel fell like he did?
I don't. Just sometimes that happens. It just happens.
Fatigue and all this, obviously, analyzing all these players.
I want to hear some more Todd, man.
Knowing how long the draft is. How important is it to kind of keep the energy that
it's way past my bedtime. So that is one of the hardest parts of this weekend. You just get, or I speak for myself, I get so drained, 1, because I'm an early morning person, and then 2, just from everything that you're doing, in terms of trying to manage and direct, the evening, the day, the quick turnaround.
Yeah, I think there is.
And then also just all the, kind of the ancillary obligations that come as part of it. They are long days. So
Think about the move to 8 minutes in the first round.
Love it. Like, yes, this may be unpopular, but I would make it 7 minutes if we can. So, yes.
His laugh cracks me up, bro.
Not moving up, staying there, then Denzel makes it to you guys, and then obviously you made a couple other moves where you went up. So, what would you say is a determining factor to when they say we're going to stay and wait and hope versus let's go get the guy?
I mean, you're really trying to just play the odds, and when I say that, it's not just like this black odds. Okay, this guy has whatever percentage chance of getting there. It's pooling, the information that you can source. It's looking at your board and identifying the group of players that you're comfortable with sitting and picking, or if you have to move, and then at that point, it's making an educated guess. Like, look, we did consider, okay, if we're at 39, is there a move that would make sense to go up and get Denzel or go up and get, Emmanuel? And after going through all the information, having discussion, kind of trying to read the board as the picks came off, we felt like the right decision, the right bet was to remain patient. And look, you don't get all those right. So, you just make the best decisions you can in the moment.
Wow. You have to I mean, that has to be a boost of confidence. Did I say he hasn't already been doing a good job, especially since last year, but like, to know that you had the conversation to think about trading up to draft guys that literally fell into your lap. Like, how much more different are we feeling if we go Emmanuel at 39, then we miss out on Denzel Boston? Like, what is the other receiver? Maybe it's a Jacoby Lane, possibly. I don't know, but it is weird to know that he did think about trying to move up to get 2 of the guys that pretty much fell into his lap.
How much fun has it been just having Todd up there? This is the first time playing coach. I saw the videos of you fist pump.
Yeah.
How are the vibes?
It's great because, like, Todd is super funny, and
yeah, he is.
Unfortunately, all of it can't make it on camera with how funny he is, but he keeps the room energetic. He keeps it light. He's super passionate. He's a lot of fun to work with.
I ain't never heard her say that about your money. How how did we get like? I just don't understand how we managed for 5 years. Like, I get it, we had some success. Like, it's not all doom or gloom, right? But like, everybody is feeling the same thing, from the fans to the front office to the players. Everybody is feeling that energy in the building. Like, this is why having football players, football energy, football mentality, and it matters so much, because like a wise man once said, that is contagious. It literally is contagious, man.
Yeah. So ask him that the next time he comes down here. How about that? All right. You guys have a good night.
All right. Browns do not win every draft. You're wrong about that one, Raul. You are wrong about that one. This is Todd Monken the second day. Here we go.
As you look at everything, all the activity you guys have done, across really this first 2 days.
What did you say? That I missed it. Who?
Better do you feel about?
I forgot. What were we talking about?
Is as you kind of take.
Oh, he was talking about Todd Monken. That's what he's talking about. Todd Monken.
The next step.
Feel great addressing the receiver room and the O-line room, along with the safety position. I think as we went into the draft, and I think Andrew can speak to this more than I can, but it's where we hoped we would head, where we would address. See him as a tackle to start. Obviously has some flex we think could move inside.
Wait, who was that to?
Talk about
him as a tackle.
Oh, Austin. Okay, Barker.
See him as a tackle to start. Obviously has some flex we think could move inside.
Talk about, back-to-back receivers in the first and second round. That doesn't happen often. So what is your reaction to getting those two guys?
Well, I think he complements. If you take Denzel after KC, I think he complements KC. He's a different body type than what we have. We were looking at someone we thought could be a size matchup, and especially in the red zone, which we did not have. So loved his competitive spirit. Just talking about Denzel now. Spoke with Jed Fish, his head coach at Washington, who I've got a ton of respect for. Been in the NFL and raved about Denzel. Loves to practice, competitive, a lot of fight in him. He's come a long way as a player and is only going to continue to get better. And we certainly needed to just continue to upgrade that position, and we did.
Feeling coming out, I know you guys gained this house, Andrew and them, but like to come out of this draft with 4 players in the first 2 nights that a lot of folks had first round grades on.
Well, ultimately now, whether we take them in the first round, second round, third round, whatever their grades are now, it's up to us as a coaching staff to develop them. And that's why we're hired. That's why coaches are hired, is to develop the players that show up in your locker room. And, you're always trying to maximize a player's measurable skill set. And that's what we're going to fight like hell to do.
It's still kind of a hole in the middle of your offensive line. I know Elton Jenkins can go there, but how much discussion in the draft room has there been about the center position?
There has been. And there's a possibility we'll still address that as we get further into the draft. Everybody's tired. I get it. I'm tired too.
Denzel's red zone ability. How important was it to have 2 receivers that have complementary skill sets to do what you want to do offensively?
Probably more important than usual, just to the makeup of our receiver room as it sits right now. Would not have been as big a deal if you would have had some bigger body types. But when you look at some of the body types we have when we take the field every day, we certainly needed to certainly get bigger. We certainly needed to add some size to that room. And, Denzel provided that for us.
Thank you. Like, why did it take 15,000 coaches and Todd Monken to get that through our heads. Every single year, we always get the short guy. Why did it take this damn long? And for Todd Monken to come in here and be like, hey, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Receivers usually are big, physical. Like, you look at the greats, they're up there. Like, you maybe, I don't know. Maybe we get a big guy. Like, damn, Todd. Like,
Better question for Andrew, but it's kind of unusual to trade out of the run and then come back in.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a heck of a ride. I was just in there for the ride, so it was pretty cool.
Guys overlooked and just said, "Oh, wait a minute, there's a guy we do want after all."
Are you talking about Barber?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we really liked him from the jump. You don't know how the board, again, Andrew can answer this. You don't know, in my limited experience of this, you don't know how it's going to go. There's certain players that are picked higher than you would have thought, and there's others that are a little bit lower. Certainly, we knew we had to address the offensive line. And so, you know, as he was still up on the board, I think the opportunity to move back, and then as it continued, then let's not wait any longer. Let's go up and get him. And we're fired up to get him.
The competition now in the
Shador gave you this energy. Don't forget that. Lions, are you new here? You gotta be new here. I'm gonna need for you to go do your homework, buddy.
receiver room. What do you see in total there?
Well, I just think you have to keep adding to the room as best you can. You're trying to raise the floor. I mean, ultimately, in any position group, you start by raising the floor and developing who you have. And that started this past week. So it just turned out the way the draft unfolded. And Andrew, again, can speak to this, that when we got to, you know, the spot that we had at 7 would be actually 39, but today 7. We did have opportunities, and Andrew speak to it, to move back, but we really thought at that pick, take Denzel.
Do you now feel with the guys that you added, with the guys that you have, with Harold, do you feel pretty good about the potential explosiveness of your offense?
I feel better.
Wait, I missed that. That was a very
potential explosiveness. Harold, do you feel pretty good about the potential explosiveness of your offense?
I feel better.
You mentioned safety being something you guys were obviously looking at on the other side of things.
Okay.
Just what strikes you and stands out about Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, and what do you like with what he brings to the table?
Length, speed, tough. That's it. I mean, he's got great length, excellent speed, and he'll hit the heck out of you. I mean, that's 3 pretty good characteristics of a safety.
Yesterday, so I asked you guys today, were you kind of surprised at how the board fell today and getting Denzel, who had a first-round grade?
Surprised? I would not say that. I would not say that of the picks. I would not say that I was surprised, especially on the offensive guys. If you asked me where those picks went, I would have said it was, you know, pretty close to where we kind of had targeted, where we thought they would be available. Again, Andrew can speak to that. I'm speaking for me, you know, in terms of where I would have thought, because I did evaluate all those players, and I would have said that was about right. And the board actually played out that way.
How much more fun is it doing this, if fun's the right word, doing this as a head coach instead of offensive coordinator?
Well, I have one more level of input, I guess, as opposed to a step down, you know, from the head coach end of the OC. But ultimately, it's more fun because, you know, when you're an offensive coordinator, you're really not responsible for winning. You're responsible for scoring. And when you're the head coach, we're responsible for winning. So I certainly want to score. But more importantly, we got to win football games. And so when it came down to, you know, when you're talking about defensive players, I'm all for great defensive players going to help us win. Ultimately, that's our job as an organization, a head coach, is to do everything in our power to put a roster together. It gives us a chance to compete every week and ultimately turn this organization into a consistent winning one.
Bar.
Every week and
Bar.
ultimately turn this organization into. Not really. I mean, it doesn't really. One.
Mentioned how your messaging about what type of players you want is really direct. They get the idea of what you're looking for. Do you feel like you've been listened to as this is the type of player I want to run my offense?
Not really. I mean, it doesn't really work that way. There are pieces like that. I take that back. There are elements of what you may need from a position. What type of tight end, for instance, you want a fullback. You're going to be an 11 personnel team. So personnel wise, much more than maybe the player, because I don't think the parts that make a player, how they're wired, their toughness, mental toughness, their self-awareness. Do they love to practice? Do they love football? I think that's from the jump. That's who you want to surround yourself with.
Facts.
So, but maybe a little bit in terms of how you see usage of a player. It does you no good to take a player without a plan for them. And I think we all saw KC the same way, how we could utilize him. I think we all saw it the same way.
I'm sorry, Todd, to cut you off, but like you mentioned, what the hell was the plan with Anthony Schwartz? Did you really try to take a track star guy and turn him into a deep threat when that was not his forte? Like, what was your plan for Anthony Schwartz? He should have been a wraparound guy. He should have been a jet sweep merchant. He should have been a guy that gets the ball at the line of scrimmage and let him go work. What the hell was your plan for? I'm sorry, Todd, continue.
In terms of Denzel, I think, when you talk about the offensive linemen, you're just trying to get some guys that you think can play tackle, but also have position flex. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Speaking of fullbacks, do you and your staff still consider Aiden Huntington a viable fullback?
Well, it's funny. The first time I saw him, I'm like, you're the fullback here, right? And he looked at me like, no, I'm a defensive tackle. So that didn't go over great. The first conversation I had with him, I'm joking. He was fine. But ultimately, he's going to want to play defensive tackle first. But he certainly showed some promise in the backfield and obviously has the toughness and the want to. And you can see that on special teams. He played on special teams. You could see him on kickoff. So I do think that is an option as we move forward. But again, I think depending on how much you're going to use that position, which will, as we go along, we'll find out. It's hard if you're going to be a 21 personnel team to have a part-time fullback. So we're going to have to make that decision. Is it situationally? Is it situation only? Or you're only talking about a little piece, maybe goal line, short yardage, or is it more than that as a normal rundown piece? And if it is, then we're going to need more than a part-time fullback.
We're going to need more than a part-time fullback, huh?
Correct.
Go ahead.
We didn't get to watch the last two practices of minicamp, just the first one, obviously. So can you kind of share how did Deshaun and Shador and Dylan look? Now you got all.
We just couldn't get past the draft and get right on to back to the quarterback. Anybody got some Miles questions too while we're at it? I mean, hell, while we're just here at night. First off, I'll address the question. First of all, it was awesome. 3 days. The weather was unbelievable to get out on the grass and pump the music and get fired up being together. And the neighbors complained and we didn't care. And we pumped up the music louder.
Yes.
They don't like it. They can move. And so I didn't care. And it was like, being out there with the guys and just getting a little bit of a feel for who we have on our roster. And
hey, the neighbors, when they hear the music and they ask them to turn it down and then they hear it louder.
I thought all three quarterbacks at
oh
times,
my God, Todd.
you could see,
come on, man,
the positives in their game and learning the new system. And they've been awesome in the meeting rooms and on the field. And it was just kind of dipping our toe in the water. But I thought, Deshaun looked really good at times. And there's other things got to work on. Same with Shador and with Dylan. So I really didn't do a deep dive into all of them, but it was a heck of a lot of fun being out there. I can tell you that.
Upstairs, sitting next to Andrew in the room. What's that been like for you as a head coach? And you and Andrew are, find yourselves thinking alike as the board comes together, as you're sitting next to each other?
Well,
I love how
I think we see players the same way in their value, how they're wired. That part of it is for sure. Other than that, I just have a small, picture of each player. I certainly don't have the picture of every single player that they do, that they've spent years, at least 1 year, and probably more than that on a player. So what I do know is the players that I did look at, and I listen to the scouts, and we all talk about how they're wired. And do we want them representing the Cleveland Browns? Is that who we want? And we've got a great group. We're just continually trying to raise the floor, but I've been thoroughly impressed with the process of Andrew and his staff. And I can see how the picks came to fruition last year with the talent that we have. And I feel really good about what we're adding at this point.
Emmanuel, does Rudy want to play a bunch of 3 safety packages?
I'm not really going to get into what we're going to do, considering we won't have film yet for our first game. So we're just fired up to have him.
To go back to the receivers, I know when you first talked about your offense and this offense's identity, talked about scoring being the most paramount thing. Like, do you feel good about the different ways those guys can score that you've added so far?
I do. Again, like I said, I think they complement each other. I think it started with we had to address the offensive line. I mean, that's, in both areas. That's, the receiver position and the offensive line. And I really feel good about, where we're at this point.
And they made it known. They made it known how important the offensive line was, because all of the moves at first were offensive line and then offensive line again. So, there should be no excuses this year, boys.
Last one. And that is, in getting your evaluation of how the quarterbacks looked, there are still plenty left on the board on the final day of the draft. To you, Andrew has talked about it's wholly realistic. You guys could add another quarterback to the room. Would you be kind of excited to do that? And do you see, are there some guys that you like from the quarterback position?
We'll see how it plays out. I don't think there's any position that is off the board that we wouldn't take, even after taking 2 receivers. We might have taken a third. We might take another offensive lineman. Could be a quarterback. I don't think there's any position when I left the draft room that I didn't see anything that wouldn't interest us at any position.
All right, that's day 2 interviews. We've got one last set of interviews. This is day 3, Andrew Berry and Todd Monken, and we'll be done.
All right. Obviously, we, the weekend is not complete, but we've got a little bit of a break, or really a long break here before, our last pick and then the undrafted free agency process. We're really pleased with at least where we sit, as we head into the 6th round. We expect by the end of the weekend, we'll be able to add, 10 rookies that we're really excited about, as well as, 2 future 4th round picks in the 27 draft. At the onset of this, or I guess, last week, I talked about, our goal heading into the weekend is, not just the 1st round, but it's how do we maximize the resources that we head into the draft with. And that's whether, you're using those resources, some of them for veteran players, whether you're using it to generate more by trading down, obviously the players that you select, and then the future draft capital that you're able to manufacture. So we're really pleased with where we sit today with the combination of players and future assets that we're able to create. We're looking forward to finishing strong and signing some undrafted free agents that can help our club this year. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Do you plan?
Drafting Tailon Green, and what's your thinking behind?
Jeez Louise, Mary Kay. She could not wait to be the first one to ask the question about Taylen Green. How we should have guessed that.
What traits did you like about him?
Yeah, it's probably a little similar to what I mentioned yesterday, Mary Kay, where, at the quarterback position, it's the most important in sports. We'll make a bet or acquire a player that we like if it's the right cost. With Tailon specifically, very mature young man, really strong makeup, and he has rare physical gifts. He has size, he has elite speed, he has a big arm. He's going to need some polish with his game, but he has the work ethic and he has the acumen to do so. So we're looking forward to adding him to the roster and adding him to the mix in terms of competition.
Let's talk about potentially moving Tailon to wide receiver or tight end.
We're not. He's playing quarterback.
Andrew, when you talk about polishing, the turnovers were obviously the big thing about his game that seemed to be a red flag when he was at Arkansas and Boise State. When you watched him on film, how much of him? I mean, do you see a pathway to where he can work on that as he develops at this level?
Yeah, I think context is important with that type of thing, Chris. I think. Arkansas, they were actually one of the better offenses in college football and faced, I think it was like the toughest slate of college football opponents. The other side of the ball was not nearly as productive, to put it kindly. And so I think as we've
Wait a minute. I missed the questions. Maybe I'm laughing for no reason, but hold on. Hold on. What did he say? Where's the question? What's the question?
A pathway to where he can work on that as he develops at this level?
Yeah, I think context is important with that type of thing, Chris. I think, Arkansas, they were actually one of the better offenses in college football and faced, I think it was like the toughest slate of college football opponents. The other side of the ball was not nearly as productive, to put it kindly. And so I think, as we've seen here, when there's maybe a little bit of undue stress towards one side of the ball, it can put you in disadvantageous situations. And I think Tailon had a fair amount of that. That being said, there are absolutely areas of his game that he has to clean up. But we are looking forward to working with him and potentially developing him because he does have a really strong makeup, rare physical gifts, and then really the want to improve.
Okay, it was in regards to something else. I was like, wait a minute, is he talking about us? He was talking about Arkansas, and then he.
A quarterback like this with this much just raw skill, even if he's not ready to start or play for you, can you find a way to use that guy as a weapon when he's not your quarterback?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and I think so. The short answer is yes. Obviously, his gift as a ball carrier and a runner is pretty unique, but it does have to go within the whole. I guess it really has to go with the offensive vision. And I think that's something that over the course of the spring and into training camp,
Rick, you silly,
as our
bro.
offensive staff works with, this group of players, we'll define the identity and figure out how much of that, we could potentially incorporate.
I don't want to compare.
It doesn't. It doesn't mean anything. We're going to continue to work with all those guys, and we like having competition.
Compare like Taylon's to Lamar Jackson, but obviously knowing that Todd has worked with like a really dynamic quarterback, how much that maybe gave you a little more comfort in making the pick, even though you acknowledge he's going to need some polish?
Honestly, Daniel, it had very little to do with that. Todd's obviously he's worked with Lamar, but Lamar was pretty unique relative to the quarterbacks that he had worked with previously. I don't know that Lamar and Stetson Bennett could be more polar opposite. That's one of Todd's gifts, the ability to maximize, offensive skill sets, period, and particularly at that spot. For us, it was, as we looked at the prospects who were available to us, their relative strengths and weaknesses, we felt like Tailon was the right pick at the top of 6. Look, we're excited to work with him.
the years, you guys have typically had 4 quarterbacks at least in the offseason and throughout training camp. Like, what's the benefits for that many arms on the room?
Yeah, well, part of it you needed to get through. I mean, look, we lived it firsthand last year, right? Like you needed to get through camp. We do believe in keeping 3 on the active roster and ideally a 4th on the practice squad. But it's it's an important position. There is
Will Dylan Gabriel find his way on the practice squad? Find out this summer. Training camp 2026. Cleveland Browns.
Attrition throughout the year. And I think also, the other element is it's never a problem to have too many good players. It just isn't. Like, even as I think through last year with that position, we had 2 young guys, 2 vets who either got hurt or at one point were no longer the starter because of performance, and we were able to turn those players into resources that could help the team this upcoming offseason. So sometimes it's not a linear path in terms of how they positively impact the roster of the organization. It may not always be on field, but we're going to try and make as many calculated bets as we can and take steps from there.
Andrew, going back to Tailon, the offense he played in at Arkansas, Bobby Petrino, also, kind of off of Daniel with Lamar. I mean, what does that offense do specifically to kind of help a quarterback, prepare a quarterback to kind of go? I mean, is there things that transfer from that?
I think there are a lot of commonalities in college and pro offenses. Maybe I should back up. There's only one Lamar Jackson, and so I understand the thought or comparison there, but there's one Lamar Jackson. I think how Arkansas deployed Tailon in the run game, the QB driven run game, that's probably like the bigger component, the bigger similarity. And when you have someone with his athletic gifts, that's something that you certainly want to utilize within the offensive system.
I guess growing up, I guess it was more about how Petrino prepares quarterbacks more so than a direct comparison to Lamar.
Yeah, his track record speaks for itself. That being said, all these quarterbacks who come into the NFL, this weekend, they have a lot to learn. And fortunately, we have one of the best teachers with Todd, and we know he's in good hands.
37 turnovers.
I'm sorry?
How do you get past just the 37 turnovers in two seasons?
Yeah, so I think that goes with context, right? Like,
wait, Tailon Green had 37 turnovers? Damn.
Part of it is it a situation where they're down, they're in heavy drop back, they're past their scores. And then part of it is like, yeah, guys do need to take steps and improve, Tony. But the other side of the coin is, you do have, players who are able to generate enough explosive plays where not a terminal, but like maybe a higher turnover rate is at least more doable for the team. And that's what Arkansas, experienced. Probably a perfect example would be maybe, Josh Allen earlier in his career, where he generated so many explosive plays that you could live with some of the errors. Now, once he became an MVP, he was able to minimize those with time on task and experience. But, at this point in the draft, there are no perfect prospects, but, Tailon has a lot of positives that make us want to work with him.
It's a two-part question. If Brownsford could win the center job, would that be ideal for you? And then you can move Jenkins to right guard.
I would say the thing that would be ideal is just to have the best 5 out there. Like, I don't really care who it is, as long as we have quality production at all 5 spots.
If that would happen, the second part would be having 2 rookies starting. Would that be a little bit dicey?
I don't think so. I mean, the Patriots had that and went to the Super Bowl this year.
I'm surprised no one's asked about DeJuan Jones yet. Like, you go through all of this offensive line overturn, and like DeJuan Jones is just nowhere in the conversation. Like, that's kind of weird.
Joe Glitter, and what's his outlook as he comes in the door as far as where do you view?
Yeah, Joe has size, really good hands. He is a player that can produce both in the Y, which is kind of your traditional inline, role, and the F role, which is a little bit more of a receiving role. So to have that flexibility in the room is helpful and important. So he was the guy that we liked. We felt was, there for the value, and, we're happy to add him to the team.
Andrew, did you ever think you were going to make all 4 of those picks that were so close together in the 5th round?
We were ready to. I was hoping that we wouldn't have to, just because I thought that, look, there were players that we liked there. But I thought combination of some of the things that we did were going to be more impactful for the team.
When you look at the versatility so many of these guys that you guys have drafted have, how much do you anticipate that maybe playing into camp as they get here, of exploring other ways that they might be used outside of their primary role?
Yeah, it's actually honestly a little bit of a delicate balance. Like, Todd talks about it all the time, and he's used some other young players that he's coached where the excitement can be, while like, when we select this guy, he can do this, he can do that, he can do this, and you don't want to spread them too thin through early. So, we'll probably, start them off in kind of one spot and let them get their sea legs, so to speak, before, branching out. But it's certainly something that we're excited about as we move forward.
Seeing combine results from a guy that size in terms of Tailon, since really like Calvin Johnson is comparable to him. Was it that point in the draft, just the athleticism just outweighs like maybe a more polished passer like a Nussmeier in that situation?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily compare him to the other prospects, other than say that we felt like Taylon's makeup, his physicals, we just think there's a lot to work with.
I know, obviously, you guys don't have an answer from Joel in terms of his future, but given the amount of resources dedicated to the offensive line that you guys have obviously done, is there anything to read into there, I guess, in terms of you guys, in terms of like maybe what the direction you guys are heading as far as the offensive line is concerned?
I wouldn't say so. I think when we've been at our best, when we had the best unit in the league, we were deep. It wasn't just quality, but it was depth as well. And so, there are a couple positions that once you get past this time of the year, you just can't acquire till like really the next off season. And then the offensive line position group, that's one of those spots. So when we can add players, the bigger guys that are hard to find, we'll do that.
Parker, when you drafted him, I think you said something like he's exactly what you're looking for. What is it about him, and is the weight any concern for you all?
Yeah, we always, and Hop's even probably best at saying this. Like, if you didn't know, you wouldn't be able to tell with his play. But really, the bigger thing is, and you could see it when we had JC here, when we had Nick Harris when he was healthy, and then in Baltimore when they had, Tyler Linderbaum. The centers that can pull and work at the second level and get to the perimeter because of their athleticism and speed, they give you a lot of optionality in the run game. And that's something that Parker does very, very well. So we're excited about, that part of his profile.
You talk about the makeup of your quarterback room right now. Obviously, 2 really young guys, 3 now really young guys, 2 that have some experience, and then Deshaun, just overall, the makeup, the energy of the room.
Yeah, I think the 3 guys that we've had here have worked really hard and they've got along really well. We've been really pleased with the, early part of the offseason program, and we think, Tailon will really fit in nicely just because of how he's wired, his work ethic. So we're looking forward to seeing that group progress over the course of the spring and summer.
Do you feel like Deshaun, I know he was a really good mentor to the younger guys last year and everything. Do you think he'll be good for someone like Tailon with his Pro Bowl background and all of that?
Yeah, like Deshaun's great with his teammates, and I'd imagine that would continue to be the case.
Bro, Mary Kay, ain't this after? Is this still the nighttime? What kind of questions is we asking right now, bro?
So that group, they work together really well and they get along really
Thanks.
well.
Like
At this stage of the draft,
Deshaun Watson been in the
how
building for
much
4
does a
5
guy
years. You know,
sort of
like
relationship
every
with Justin
like
Jefferson, how much does a guy having that special teams quality and that as a characteristic in their game maybe like boost them on your board or sort of fit into the picture when you're thinking about value at this stage?
It's definitely a factor. It's not a one size fits all approach. I think with Justin, he's a DNA match for this defense because, we'll prioritize speed, range, athleticism, and sacrifice a little bit of size because of how we play. But then also like his ability in the kicking game is certainly a bonus because it gives a relatively high floor for his year one role.
Right into the season, the offseason is going to be mostly about the offense, right? The resources. I'm just wondering, when you were interviewing Todd and talking to Todd before he got your job, how much of that was a discussion topic on how you're going to fix it and exactly how he thought you might be able to fix it?
Yeah, we were transparent with all the candidates we talked to about that part of it. We were honest with where we were in our, our roster's life cycle and said, hey, look, here's how we've positioned ourselves, going into this year, and here's how we generally anticipate deploying the assets. So that's something that we were very open at. I think to accept a job, this big as like a, head coach in the NFL, when you're walking into a team with transition, like you have to have visibility in terms of, what that'll look like moving forward.
You had some, not draft related, but you had some group of players in for tryouts during the voluntary minicamp. Are you planning on keeping some around, continuing those tryouts, signing any of them?
We have not signed any today. That's probably TBD. I would not anticipate that we're signing any veterans in the short term, but it's something that we could revisit as we get through draft week and as we get through the undrafted free agent signing process.
Tailon Green then complete the quarterback room?
Yes. Yeah. You know what? Let me back up. I should have learned I've learned the hard way not to say anything definitively. The current plan is that we would roll with those four. I can't predict if something else comes up. So yes, that would be the intention.
What else could be coming up, buddy boy? We don't need to revisit the Joe Flacco thing. There was many reasons why you needed to address the quarterback position one more time. Just close the door on it, stamp it. This is what your quarterback room is. This is what you're rocking with, and it goes like I just think that they're confident. They're confident in Shador. Whether it's Shador or Watson, they're confident because everything that they told us in the press conference meeting, in the offseason meetings, the beginning ones, they pretty much came through with all of that. They told us how aggressive they were going to be on the offensive side of the ball. They told us that they were going to use majority, if not like a bulk of their resources on the offense. They did. They maximized their resources. They did. Everything that they have been saying that they wanted to do, they've done. And when he said in the press conference, the number one thing on our list is head coach, and number two is quarterback. I bet you they felt like when they hired Todd Monken that they were hitting two birds with one stone because Todd Monken convinced them that he could get the job done with Todd Monken or with Deshaun Watson and Shador Sanders, and Andrew Berry and them probably bought what he was selling. So this is that's where I feel like Todd's sway came into it and why he probably ended up winning the job, because of everything that they wanted to do, which was go straight offense. And then Todd saying, hey, look, I can win with these quarterbacks.
Started so many games in college. He's been around for a long time. He's played
because they didn't address the quarterback room until the sixth round.
It's part of the equation, Mary Kay, but I wouldn't say that it was, by any means like the heaviest weight or the driving force, behind the decision. But yeah, it does play a role in.
I feel like you've constructed, like through the draft, through the offseason, constructed this offensive line to make it conducive to a Joel return if he decides that he wants to come back?
I put it this way: we'll never run away from good players.
Of all your picks, which is the most surprising to you got them with?
That's a great question, Jeff. Honestly, it's E-Man. Like it really, it's Emmanuel. That's the one that I wouldn't have anticipated that he would have been available where we selected him.
So much about quarterback. So when you entered this weekend, did you think you were going to take Tailon? But was that part of the plan? I know things changed, but like when you envisioned it, was that?
I'd say this: like there was. I don't know that you can predict day 3 of the draft. We knew that quarterback could be one of the positions as we thought through how day 3 could play out, that we could make a selection. And and he was certainly in the pool of quarterbacks that could come in consideration depending on how the board fell. But I wouldn't say it was like, okay, hey, look, you can't be so strict with your planning because you don't control how the names come off the board.
All right, let's bring it on home, Todd, please, because that one was kind of a snooze fest. Last interview, boys. Last interview. Lock in. Todd Monken.
I think the
11 minutes.
acquisition of Tailon Green and what can he do for you guys? What does he add to your quarterback?
Wait. Don't tell me that was Mary Kay with the QB question.
I think the acquisition of Tailon Green and what can he do for you guys? What does he add to your quarterback?
I just think at that point in the draft, and again, I think Andrew can speak to this more than I can, but you're looking for players that have traits, elite traits, which he has, something you think you can work with and give yourself a chance to develop. You hear some great things from not only when he was at Boise, Arkansas, in terms of how he's wired. And so we're just looking forward to get to work with him.
He said that, I know you previously said that like holding like a four-way quarterback competition isn't ideal, and Andrew kind of indicated that he needs some polish for his game. But do you feel comfortable with like the plan going forward to not only hold this quarterback competition, but to get all the quarterbacks the reps that they need, the young ones to develop?
Well, let's just talk about what competition means at every position. Every player that's going to be a part of our roster is going to be competing, right? I mean, whoever we bring in, starting with rookie minicamp and then OTAs, mandatory minicamp, and then training camp. But as we've spoken before, at any position, that doesn't mean equal reps. I mean, there has to be some form of a depth chart per se. Everybody has a chance to compete. They're not always going to get equal reps, if that makes sense. You know, what is a competition? Every guy that's in training camp, every guy that's part of our roster, the amount of reps they get, that's to be determined.
How playing the last couple of years Tailon played in the last couple of years under Bobby's system, how has that sort of gotten him prepared for this level in terms of what he does schematically, what he asks his quarterbacks to do within that system?
Well, first off, coach did a great job of adapting, which really good coordinators do. They adapted. You know, if you look at quarterbacks that Coach Petrino's had in the past compared to this young man.
Damn. So what you're saying is, Todd, I hate to cut you off again, but you're saying good coaches adapt. Okay. So I noted.
Different. They did a great job of adapting to his strengths. And you can see that. But I'm sure there were still core principles of the expectations that he has for their quarterbacks. And you could see the development over the few years, you know, from when he was at Boise, really developed as a passer. You can see that. Always has been able to run. And you can see that in his statistics. You can see when he was at Boise, how few times they threw it compared to where they were at Arkansas, how they felt more comfortable with his ability to throw the football down the field.
Todd, with Tailon, Andrew made it clear that you guys view him as a quarterback first, but as your offensive mind that you are, do you sort of envision, or what are some of the other ways that you feel like maybe you can get him involved and get the ball in his hands, given the skill set that you highlighted?
Well, that remains to be determined. I will say this, that it is very difficult to be elite at one position in the NFL, let alone two. I think teams are starting to find that out.
With obviously your long time reputation as a really good quarterback tutor guru, how eager are you to get your hands on a quarterback like this with such raw physical ability and just almost kind of like mold him into like whatever he can kind of be?
Well, I mean, it's we're excited about any player that we get. So to be able to get, I wouldn't just single out him per se, other than we're excited with his skill set, and Coach Bajakian's excited to add someone with his traits that we're hopeful to be able to get, on the field and then see what we got.
Mary Kay trying so hard to
Offense now.
why
because
like
you have-
why are we trying so hard to get a clip though? Like, come on, man. That's like 2-3 questions in about in a it's been 4 minutes on quarterback. Like, come on, man.
Compared to when the draft started, do you see how your playbook could open up more with, especially with the two receivers you got?
Not yet. Haven't seen them yet. We'll have a better idea once they get here. Am I excited? Yes, I'm excited about the work that Andrew has done thus far. We have another pick left in his staff. I think it's been a great draft. But what matters is now once they get here,
I haven't.
and then how we develop them and how we put them in the right places to let their talent shine.
Your approach specifically to player development across the board, this draft feels like so many of these guys have a lot of versatility. How does that play into your approach when you're looking to develop a young player, when they have played multiple positions, when they have that versatility as one of their skill sets that they're praised about?
Well, I think a huge strength of a player is versatility. And it's going to happen that way in the draft. Andrew and I were talking about that in the draft room of why certain linemen go higher in the draft than others. Is it a center only? Is it a guard only? Is it a tackle? We don't see their body type as a guard. Obviously, tackles are going to go sooner. Versatility-wise, is it a wide tight end that can block and also attack you vertically and separate? So all of that comes into play. But until we get those players here and get a chance to work with them, I don't know that yet. But we are excited about what we've seen on film and the anticipation that we can move them and have some flexibility in the spot
Oh shit.
that they play.
Hey, Victory Monday is gonna hit so hard when Todd Monken comes up to the podium because he's been yelling so much from from the game previous for like I can just picture it now, him coming up to the podium and him having absolutely no voice and just barely being able to get through a Victory Monday, and then or that press conference Sunday, and then Monday him coming in and just like can you just picture it? Because I'm that's what I'm visualizing in my head right now. It's gonna hit so hard.
Taylor, you talked about the rare traits, and so did Andrew. How extra rare maybe to see it from a guy that size? I think it's more close to 6'6".
Well, you're exactly right, because those guys are playing basketball. I mean, that's you're seeing them on the basketball court. You're not seeing them play football, or at least not at that position.
Have they had any questions about quarterback?
You'll see some
I don't
total
know, Steve.
wideouts that you'll get, but at quarterback, you don't see that very often, for sure.
You guys have 3 obviously very young quarterbacks now.
There ain't no way. There ain't no way. Mary Kay, give it a break. There's no way. What is she about to say? What is she about to ask now? Like, how do you have this many quarterback questions at the hip? What is she about to say, man?
That you're going to be working on developing. And last year, these guys had to do 2 spotting in practice and some different things. Do you think that will make it, kind of easier on you guys as a staff, knowing that they had to kind of do that last year? And will you do some of that? Will you try some 2 spotting and whatnot to get these guys up to speed?
Oh yeah, 2 spotting isn't new. I mean, it's not just for the quarterbacks, it's for all of your players. Toughest part is you have to divide up the staff. Your staff has to be willing to understand that you're not going to, when you're territorial as a coach, like you're going to have to allow the strength of our staff to split up and allow our guys to get reps. So ultimately, we'll end up two spotting, and having, a number of quarterbacks helps that. But I'm excited for all the players on our roster to be able to two spot and evaluate every single one of them.
Andrew mentioned how he thinks he's a perfect fit with your scheme. What is it about his skill set that matches what you want from that center position?
Well, you'd prefer a center with elite athleticism, but enough size and power to not get overwhelmed inside. Now, that's in a perfect world, obviously. Who doesn't want big, fast, smart, tough at every position, obviously. When you watch him on tape, you would not see the size deficiency. You'd see an athletic, powerful, uses hands well against the best competition that you can find in college football. So we were ecstatic when he was there, when we were able to pick. And we had him here for, our 30 visit. And I know Coach Warhop is excited about not only him, but all three of the guys that we've got that'll be here in a week. Well, no, 2 weeks. And we go 2 weeks later.
One, I know we talked to you after the first pick, but we didn't talk to you after KC was taken. How much of coming from Baltimore, like of Zay Flowers, do you kind of see in him in terms of the role that he might have in this offense?
Well, first of all, I love Zay Flowers. He is an elite player and an unbelievable person and works awfully hard at it. And from the moment he got there, he popped. The way he played, his personality, his charisma, he brings something to the table. I don't know yet what KC's skill set. I think there's some traits there that are similar to that. But I loved when people spoke about KC. It reminded me of Zay in that, in terms of how he practiced, what he brings it every day. And that if you're looking for that comparison, that I can compare. That I believe he's going to bring that like Zay did.
Maybe not. Could you see Taylon getting like a, I know we're putting the cart before the horse maybe a little bit, but with somebody that has that kind of. Maybe not. Could you see Taylon getting like a.
Wait. She keeps going to the. I couldn't hear the question. I'm. Is she talking about quarterback again? I can't hear the question. Hold up.
What he brings it every day. And that if you're looking for that comparison, that I can compare. That I believe he's going to bring that like Zay did.
Maybe not. Could you see Taylon getting like a. I know we're putting the cart before the horse maybe a little bit, but with somebody that has that kind of, he's rushed for 30 touchdowns, whatnot. Could you put a package in at some point during the season and try to utilize some of that raw athletic ability that he has for converting a fourth down? Or
I think there's some of that remains to be seen. Certainly, when you have a player with those kind of traits, when can you utilize those? Obvious reasons: short yardage, goal line, 4 minute, critical times when you got to be able to run the ball, and the defense is going to have an extra element in the box. Having an athletic quarterback can be critical to having success.
This interview was 11 minutes and 40 seconds. Mary Kay had a total of 4 questions, I think, and every single one of them was about the quarterback.
So if he's able to do that, then we'll certainly put him in a position if we think that can help us win a game. I mean, for sure. Because it certainly adds some value with his ability to throw it compared when you get in those situations as opposed to having to go wildcat. It's not that Q can't throw it, but I would doubt he can throw it as well as the young man we just took. Now, he probably can't run it like Q can, but having the ability to still throw it, and that's part of the intrigue when you take a play.
No, it was a good question, Evan. This one was probably her best question out of the 4, for sure. But it's like, my freaking goodness.
With those kind of traits, when they start off as what can they do for you athletically, and then how can you develop the other parts of their game?
All right. Did we any quarterback questions, chat? I don't think we got enough of a 6th-round quarterback. Like, holy crap. Like, she tried her damnedest to say that Tailon Green was going to compete for the starting position. That's the recap of all the interviews. I mean, major takeaways is that they know they cooked. I think that's the biggest takeaway out of all of this. Andrew Berry, when that first interview we saw with him, like he cooked this draft. And like I mentioned earlier in the live stream, man, I feel like we have truly turned, well, I don't want to say turned a new leaf, but it feels as if we are on the path to truly turning a new leaf with this team and with this organization. And you guys know my conspiracy theory that I've been on for the past however many months, and that like we won't see the real swinging, everything's geared towards Brook Park. It's making me feel like that ain't the thing right now. And maybe that's just because it's early, it's fresh, it's new. We're excited about Todd Monken and all of these new guys around the draft, and that's just typical of it. But moves that they made this year, especially in the draft, the confidence that they're showing and building the offensive line around the quarterbacks that are in the quarterback room right now, it's given like, okay, you know what? We gonna saddle up one big time on this offensive side of the ball and see what we can do with this defense, because the defense has been our anchor for the past few years, and we've been sitting here banging on the table every single week, every single month, every single year. Like, damn, why can't we just figure it out on offense? And they told us that they was going to attack this offense with everything that they had this year head first, and they did exactly that. We shouldn't be sitting here this week, every other week, talking about, damn, why couldn't we score 15 points? 17 points, remember, that was the barrier. Every time we got to 17 points, 18 points, 19, 20, we could not get through the 20-point barrier. Those days should low-key be long gone, because we've seen when they've put emphasis on certain positions, like the defense. We've seen when you bolster up that defense, like it works. They've used the resources. They used the capital on the offense this year. We should see a night and day difference in what we've been seeing at least over the past 2 years. And that's what has me super, super excited, because you drafted a player in KC Concepcion and Denzel Boston, who we know for a fact, right? We know for a fact that there were a lot of people in the league who wanted those two receivers. And had they ended up in someone else's team, or had we been on the phone with KC Concepcion or Denzel Boston and the team came up and jumped up, we'd be the butt of all jokes, and they'd be talking about how we fumbled yet another draft and how we avoided taking playmakers. They can't do that this time. The only thing that they can say is, how can you rate this draft, or how can you do that when you haven't seen them play? How can you do any of this stuff when you haven't seen this stuff play? So let's soak in this last little bit of energy, because we're gonna go through this little stretch where it's dead and it's the dog days of football. But come July, ooh wee, boy, end of July, beginning of August, it's about to be up. I'm low-key interested. Like, I wish we could get, selfishly, I wish we could hear from Myles Garrett. I'd like to know how he feel about his team as the captain, as the numero uno, what his thought process is. I would love to finally get that Todd Monken Myles Garrett interaction. You see what they trying to do on this offensive side of the ball, Myles Garrett. We gonna need you. You want to win, Myles. Listen, you want to win, bro. You keep telling us you want to do everything you can to win. I seen a team, I seen a GM, and I seen a coach that did everything in their power to go put an offense out there on the field. So that way, when that defense get out there, there should be no more excuses. Now we can talk about, like, now the pressure is going to really be on, because the pressure never really was on the defense. We knew what the defense was going to do now. But if our offense come out here and start putting up 25 points per game, we look up at the scoreboard with 27 points per game, that's more than enough to go out there and shut teams down and let Myles Garrett play loose. Because we've seen, once Myles Garrett gets a lead, what was Jim Schwartz doing? They was moving them from left to right when the play came out. They was putting them upside the middle and making him go up the middle. Like, you get to start having fun with these defensive players, and you start to letting these players run with their heads like they chickens cut off, with their chickens like their heads cut off. So this is gonna be exciting. Let me know in the comments what you guys think your rating is for this draft. Who are you most excited for out of the draft class this year? Who do you think is going to have the biggest impact day one? And make sure you guys stay tuned because boy, oh boy, that NFL draft video that we got coming up is going to be a legend. It's going to be it's the start of the type of content that I want to put out. Major shout out to Wifey. Major shout out to my boy Matt, cameraman behind the guy behind the camera, for making this weekend special. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to all y'all. You know, you already know what time it is. Shout out to all y'all for being the best crockpot supporter, the best community in the game, for allowing me to be able to do this. We put on, hey, you know, I had to show out. I put on for the city. I held it down. I had the ears to the streets. I felt it all. You know what I'm saying? It was weird though, too. I ain't gonna lie. We'll get more into the draft stuff in a different stream because this one's long enough. But when I say I was low-key shocked that we didn't really show out at Pittsburgh as much as I thought we would. Damn, I was like, what the? I could have sworn we was going to turn this place out, but there were still some people there and we held it down. But you already know what time it was with me. I was going to act the ass regardless. I was booing, I was talking trash, I was doing all that stuff. It was a grand time, but I appreciate everybody for tuning into this long ass 2-hour stream. Make sure you guys drop a like, drop a sub if you're new here as well. And I will catch you guys on the next one. All right. Have a good night, guys. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Peace out.